It was good, everyone. My name is Wayne Moore. I'm a former CFL player with the B.C Lions, and I consider myself a left brain, right brain enthusiast who is an artist. I was born in Portland, Jamaica. I grew up there. I was there till I was 2 years old. Came to Canada with my family. We grew up in Dunkerwoods, which is a neighborhood off of Islington and Finch. I stayed there until I was in like grade 8, and then the rest of my teenage years was in Rexdale, which definitely formed me. And yeah, that's my base, that's my foundation. What was life like as an immigrant kid? I would say it was beautiful, honestly. I grew up in the hood, man, and I loved it. It made me me. I'll never change it for anything because a lot of my childhood memories come from that foundation, and I only view it as great times. Like when people hear about the hood, obviously, it's natural for negative things to be attached to it, but when you're inside of it, you know it's not only negative things. Negative things happen everywhere, you know what I mean? But for me, there was a lot of beautiful things, a lot of great things that I was exposed to, a lot of beautiful souls that I still remember to this day that taught me a lot of what I know. And yeah, obviously being a Jamaican, there was a lot of Jamaicans in my neighborhood, which made me feel like I was still growing up in Jamaica. And obviously my parents are Jamaican, so the roots are always with me. Just continue to embrace who you are. Continue to bring your culture with you. Never put it on the back burner. I feel like it's important to, especially coming from another country, you have an advantage to bring something special that people aren't used to. So don't be like shy of it. Bring that confidence to the world and expose it to as much people as you can. My relationship with my parents like impacted my life choices huge, huge. Because like obviously I mentioned, I grew up in the hood. It's my neighborhood. I wouldn't even call it the hood. Like it's just my neighborhood, my community. And there were a lot of negative things that happened, but whatever whatever I was exposed to on the outside, whenever I came inside, there was rules and regulations that I had to abide by, and that kept me balanced. So I was grateful for everything I was exposed to outside because that greeted me to the world. But when I came inside, there was structure to it that was formulated that I had to bring outside with me when I was being exposed to all of this. In high school, I consider myself like the new kid because that's when I really like stepped into Rexdale. Like I was in Rexdale when I was in grade 8, but I still kept going back to my old neighborhood, right? Because that's where my old school was. Whereas I was supposed to go to art school, so for grade 9, even though I was still living in Rexdale, I was still anticipating at a period of time to go to Northview Collegiate, in which they had a specialized arts program. So I got accepted there, and I wanted to go there, but football was always in the back of my mind. I did not yet play it yet because I wanted to play tackle football, but never had the opportunity when I was younger. And so it was always touch football or whatever we do in the schoolyard. But high school wise, we had uniform. I was definitely the student that, I wore my shirt and tie. I always took pride in that. And we had different variations of uniform, so that's why I definitely leaned towards wearing my shirt and tie because not everyone was wearing it. And then later on down the line, I noticed people started wearing their shirt and ties and so forth. But yeah, I was definitely quiet, definitely shy, humble. That's always been my upbringing, my demeanor. But athletically, that's when my real personality will come out in terms of like, I like to be aggressive sometimes. I like to assert dominance. I like to let it be known that I'm here with sports. And then, when I'm off the field, I'm just back to being chilling. Andre Bob, that's my guy. That's my guy, man. He was the main reason why he helped me make that decision to follow what I really wanted to do inside. I met him that summer when I was going from grade 8 to grade 9, and a lot of the guys in my neighborhood, they were training. So they were running hills or playing ball, training hard, and that's what I gravitate towards. So when I met Bob, he thought I was already one of the high school guys. And he's like, yo, which school you transferring from? And I'm like, nah, I'm in grade 8, trying to go, I'm going to grade 9. I'm supposed to go to Northview Collegiate, but I want to play football, and they don't have football. So once I kind of expressed that to him, he really helped me make that decision in terms of, he just said, the comment that he said that stood out to me was, if you're the artist, you can bring that anywhere, And it just never left my mind. I'm like, yo, that's true. So when I'm trying to convince my parents now, I'm like, yeah, I'm the artist. I can do that anywhere, And it's true. It came full circle to be that, because even though I did pursue football at the time for many years, art found its way back into my life, And that's what I'm pursuing now. The key factors from high school to university: training. I'm very fortunate that I took training serious in high school. That's when I met Clarence. And it's funny, obviously I met Bob, and he helped me make critical decisions in my life in order to pursue my dream of, being a football player. But from then, he made a very special comment that I still hold close to me to this day. He said something along the lines of, I've helped you as much as I can, and I need to expose you to someone else who can help you more. And that's when he brought me to Clarence. You know what I mean? And I appreciate that, because it's him putting his pride aside and saying, I want the best for this kid, and I know someone else who can help him better. So that's when I met Clarence. Clarence introduced me to another level of training, and he's still one of my closest friends to this day, But just that transition from what I learned from Clarence from high school times and going into university, I went into university one of the strongest on my team because of that. And that's just the training aspect. In terms of everything else, when I got to university, I actually started to learn the game. Whereas when I was in high school, I was just running. Just don't get caught, That process was madness. I would say that whole journey started from within my mind. When it really stood out to me was in my 3rd year, because I definitely went through a lot of turbulence in that time with trajectory going to the draft. And in your 3rd year, you're more anticipated on the East-West Bowl, because the East-West Bowl takes the best athletes from each team all around the country, and it's pretty much an all-star game. And long story short, I was one of the guys selected, or who was in the conversation, and it wasn't being communicated to me by some people that were supposed to be communicating it to me. So that kind of made it tough. And then into the next year, in my 4th year, where everything kind of counted, I wasn't sure if I was going to be one of the guys that was selected to go to the National Combine. And obviously that's where you showcase your skills and have your interviews with certain teams. So once I got selected there, I performed and I did my thing, which I had confidence in. And I got to really display myself as a football player in front of the people who it mattered to, right? So just thinking back on draft day, I still have that video, which was wild. But I had mad confidence. I went to training that same morning of the draft. I got a few calls from some teams, which definitely boosted my confidence that day. But I remember going to H&M to buy a button-up shirt because I was having a little gathering with my family. And I was doing it all with confidence because I just knew something great was going to happen that day. And I was fortunate to get selected as the first running back, which is something I take pride in till this day. And I was 11th overall to the Montreal Alouettes. I got drafted in 2016 and then ended up retiring in 21. And I was fortunate to play with Montreal Alouettes, Ottawa Redblacks, and have majority of my playing time with the B.C Lions, which was the best years that I played. Unfortunately, things had to end in 21. And oftentimes I hear when something great's gonna happen, there's turbulence that happens before that. And you don't know what form it's gonna show up in. You don't know if you're willing to accept it. but you just know whatever's on the other side, that's what you actually want. Art's always been a part of my life, but I was kind of just bouncing in and out. I never committed to it fully as yet. At that period of time in my life, I was in the best shape of my life. And that's when I was fully dedicating myself to football. The pandemic happened in 2020, so I took that extra period of time to train and go even harder. And I found myself not only training for football, but just training for life. One of my best friends, Fabian Foot, that's what he told me one time. At one period of time, we were on video call, and I was running hills. And I think he was training too, and he's like, man, I'm not even training for football no more. I'm training for life. And that has stood out to me. I'm like, you're damn right. Like, this is about life. It's not about ball all the time. And while in that phase of just preparing for the season, I was delivering a painting to a client, and just kind of exiting into the road, and bang, everything changed, man. Life-changing car accident, concussed, every single airbag went off. Me and my wife were injured. To go to the hospital, swelling in my head, just a lot of stuff that, even the discussion around concussion, like I never even experienced a concussion in football. So when I had it in the car accident, I wasn't sure if I had it. And it was a week away from training camp. So I'm definitely trying to deny it, like, no, I don't have no concussion, I'm good. I was tore up. I'm someone that likes being outside in the sunlight, you know, embracing the natural elements. I couldn't even do that. I had to be locked up inside, wearing dark glasses for a long period of time, just in a dark phase, you know? But long story short, the reason I brought up that example of going through turbulence to see something on the other side is because within that period of time when I was just in a dark hole, because I was expecting such high trajectory with my football career, and obviously that didn't happen. I never stepped back on the football field after that. I had to resort to what I know, and that was art. And all throughout that time in the healing process in the dark is when I would just kind of sketch and just build myself back up with my art. And until this day, it's proven to me that's what was on the other side, you know? Man, I was in denial for so long. And it's crazy because, like, that period of time, looking back on it, went so fast. It's just a blur. Like, I'm like, that much years passed? It's 2024 right now. All that happened from 21. So it was just a blur, but it was just a dark time, man. It was dark. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, I could pretend to say, you know, I was good. Nah, it was dark, man, because when everybody sees you training, your family sees you training, putting in that work, and they see the change in you, everyone's anticipating what's on the other side, you know? I was anticipating, my family's anticipating, my friends are anticipating. And then you just never get to show that, like, this is why I did that, you know? And like, we had an amazing team that year. It was great to watch them have such amazing success, but to not be on the field contributing the way that you planned to, that tore me up. It was tough, man, tough. But like, within that toughness, you know, I'm at home with my kids and my family, and life is lifing, you know? A period of time when it's just dark and, you know, your kids wanting the love from you, you just gotta pour into them. And me pouring into them was really them pouring into me. Like, I needed them at that period of time, just to show myself, yo, like, it's not all about football, man. There's something right in front of you that you have each and every day. Embrace that. And from that, one of my favorite paintings came from that experience too, you know? And that was Blooming in Darkness. It speaks for itself, you know? My kids poured into me, and they allowed me to bloom in that dark time. I think many artists will agree with me here, but it's just wild. It's all the time. Everything I'm looking at, I don't necessarily pick what decides to stand out to me. It could be a particular color, it could be a specific figure, but whatever speaks to my soul at that period of time, it sticks around. And in times of brainstorming, when I'm actually sitting there trying to see what I'm gonna put forth on the canvas, This is often my position. I'll be sitting on my couch and I'll just be like this, staring into the ceiling, and things will just start coming to me. It's either I write them out, start sketching it, or I start making a file, and then I just start building, man. Start building. Recently, I found that doing the 75 hard, on my walks, a lot of time on my walks, whether it be in the AMs or late at night, whenever I'm outside, things will just come to me, and I'll just try and jot it down on my notes, and when I get back, I'll just try and flip it to the sketchbook or the canvas. How do I keep myself inspired? A lot of music. Music helps definitely remind me of old ideas. I like watching music videos. Music videos, especially old ones, like they're really vibrant with colors, or like sporadic with different themes. Like I like watching old Missy Elliott videos or Busta Rhymes. Busta Rhymes is crazy. Or even like recent videos like Popcorn or Protege and like Lila Ike. The colors in the background, it speaks so much about the culture, and then that's a huge part of my artwork now, right? Culture and representation. So I just try and consistently pull from those to get my inspiration and consistently convey whatever messages I have in mind. What I draw from Jamaica, that's on canvas. You know what's wild with that? It's just me. That's what I've been embracing more of who I am, identity, you know? And a lot of seeking within that identity is from my roots and my family. You take so much pride in where you're from that you try your best to share that and convey it in art. A lot of the times when I'm revealing it in my art, it's me revealing it to myself. Because these are childhood memories that I have that I'm connecting with recent things that I am introduced to. You know, so for instance, if I'm hearing certain lyrics in a song, it brings back memories from childhood in Jamaica, and then I try and put them together, and I want to expose that. Like I feel such a joy from it that I'm like, I want other people to experience this too, or I want other people to know where I'm from, what I'm about, what I've been exposed to, what my culture is saying. It's such a vibrancy, you know. So that's what I try and execute, especially with the colors. Jamaica's bright. It's rich in its music, it's rich in its culture, it's rich in its colors. So that's why all the vibrancy that I expose into my work is primarily from the exposure and the brightness from Jamaica. It's crazy. I'm weird at words. Like I don't like to necessarily say certain things and call it upon myself. So I wouldn't call it a creative block. I would just kind of call it, I just need more time. I need more time to kind of process this thought that I'm going through. And sometimes when I may face that, or feel like it's a time of turbulence, I have a certain circle, I have a certain circle that I confide into, and with them, say I'm not the sharpest at that period of time, with those guys in my circle being so sharp, it motivates me to get back right, because I'm surrounded by such powerful and influential beings, and with them taking such pride in what they do and vibrating at a certain frequency, I have to bounce. I want to stay around that, so I have to lift up my frequency as well, and that kind of helps me tap back into it. Like, if I'm down one day and someone else comes into the group with awful energy about something that they had a breakthrough or they achieved certain things, it makes you want to do the same. So then you get yourself out of that rut and you keep going. And sometimes they call upon me like, yo, Wayne, what's the next thing you're working on? Or what's next? Or like what's been going on? Like, it brings out the best in you. It keeps you on point. What pops into mind is a message from high school in art class. And I never really liked art in school. But something I learned was art is never finished. And I could say I agree with that for the most part. Even up until yesterday, like I added to this piece behind me. And you're always gonna see something that you may want to take away or add, but it's constantly growing, right? I may see this piece as a completed piece, but someone else could come and add another recommendation or see something else they say which can spark a thought for me and make me want to manipulate the piece in a different way. But even if it's not done in that particular piece, I may take that motivation and bring it forth to another piece that I want to create with similar aspects. I don't know if I have a solid answer for this. I've experienced both. There's times my mind is set in stone. I'm like, this is what I'm pushing out. I ain't even trying to hear nothing. This is what it is. And I feel like it's important to be that aggressive at times with art, because you're going to have your feelings that you just got to get onto the canvas, and that's just what it is. But there are other times when I am seeking inspiration or, a conversation around critical thinking to put forth something else in creation. But what I do like seeking is when a piece is done, usually if I'm at an exhibit and I'm one of the artists or so forth, I like to stand in the background and just see how people interact with the work. As they're interacting, I'll make my way over and hold a small conversation and kind of ask them like what things may stand out to them and so forth. And then that'll allow me to kind of see it from a different lens. And that could be inspiration for another piece. It's just nonstop, man. It's nonstop, but it shows you like after you accumulate a certain amount of pieces, you start to see some sort of consistency. Something may be consistent along the way. At the period of time, I know for me, for sure, when I started, my work, I didn't feel like it was as consistent. I was just trying to get out whatever's in me and then kind of see which one I want to flow to the most. But over periods of time, I may be like, yeah, I like this aspect from this piece. I want to bring that into here. But I want to also add this other concept. Well, one thing I know I like to do is layering. I love to layer pieces because it adds depth. It adds a story to it. I love to add texture because it's not just a flat surface. There's a lot more to it, I would say based on my makeup, I've been through a lot, and that's added texture and turbulence to me and grit to me. So I like to convey that into my work as well. That whole process was wild. I commend myself for that. I'm not even lying to you because that was just like, it was just a whirlwind. This was a drastic change from just like football to art, using it as recovery, but then like, oh shoot, like I've accumulated this much pieces where I can have a show. And I confided into some of my mentors in the art game, Benny Bing, Kofi Fairpong. They definitely helped me in terms of like which direction to go and what things to kind of incorporate. And it helped me a lot, man. Just to kind of, the way I took it was do what you want, but do it with confidence. And what was standing out to me at a particular point in time, I created a piece when I was playing with, I actually got released from Ottawa. So I got released from Ottawa, another dark time, dark. And this was before I got to BC. I had to go back home, and it's funny, I confided back into the art. So the art helped me recover. And I created a piece with hands. And it was like a whole bunch of hands in the background with a crown, like hands coming from the top holding a crown. And that's the first concept I created with all the hands incorporated. I never created nothing like that for a long period of time. So if you fast forward and after the accident, not playing football no more and now preparing for my exhibit, the hands came back to me, man. And I did a lot more research on it, and tool of tools is what I came upon. It's a quote from Aristotle. He refers to the hands as tool of tools because us as human beings, this is how we interact every day, right? We say hi, hello. If you're introducing yourself to someone, you introduce them with a handshake, different signs and signals, right? So what I incorporate from tool of tools, I love to say what my art represents is community, culture, and connectivity. I call it my triple C. Those things stand out to me, and that's what I consistently try to convey within my work. And those were the messages within that first show, Tool of Tools. And I think it was about 22 pieces that I've accumulated, that I created for that show, which are like, majority of them were 36 by 36 size-wise. And it was a one-day show. Me and wife, we put it together. It's crazy. We woke up super early, hung up all the pieces, went back home to change, came back to meet everybody for the introduction, and it was great, man. It was great. It was solid. Well, even that, all of it was new. Like everything that I was doing was new. I was not much of a social media guy before, more so low key. Didn't really want to post much and so forth. But when you want to do certain things, you gotta kind of step out your comfort zone a bit. And I'm still doing that now. I'm still kind of finding my footing now. But I just started making different posts, kind of showing the work, kind of sharing the process behind the scenes of creating different pieces. And I would share it. The more I share it, the more people get exposed to it, the more support that came with it, the more anticipation it built. And the word of mouth just started doing its work. And that's how everyone started to come out. It was a great show and so much support. It just shows like whatever you truly believe in and you know it's what's brewing inside of you, you gotta put it out into the world. Even if you don't know how as yet, it's your duty to. Like I look at art as my duty because I don't know where it came from. I wouldn't necessarily say anybody taught me how to paint, taught me how to draw. I'm consistently learning. I view every day as a school day. But like, art is a gift that I know I got from God, and I feel like it's my duty and my purpose to say thank you by continuing to create. Man, sometimes I just reach out to people. Like, sometimes, Instagram's a huge platform that I feel like I find myself using that a lot. But if I'm scrolling and I come across a piece of work that I really like or artist's work that kind of stands out to me consistently, obviously I'll follow the page, and if it consistently keeps standing out to me, I'll express myself and say, I really like your work and so forth. I'd like to know when a show's coming up, or I'll kind of, look out for that stuff, or whatever kind of comes to mind. I'll openly express myself. Sometimes the shot hits and sometimes the shot doesn't, but I know whatever I was saying was genuine and true. And if it aligns, it aligns. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. I definitely ran into that conflict with a challenging piece. The whole concept with this piece behind me, I manifest everything that you see, is a full circle moment for me personally. There was a piece that I started, I would say in 2020, when I first started really diving into the painting, and I never completed it. And I never completed it because I hit a roadblock, and I felt stumped. And I wasn't able to bring forth that vision that I had in mind, the way I was seeing it. And that was bothering me so much that I said, if it's not coming out the way that I'm seeing it, that's that. I end up painting over that and creating a whole nother painting. But fast forward, I get selected as one of the artists for the prototype show. And that concept is just in my head. It comes back to me. And the whole concept, how it started, was behind, this is chess, not checkers. When I heard that, it just stood out to me. But like when I started the first time around, it just stuck there, and I didn't know how to keep pushing it with other messages. Whereas this time around, I brought it back, and pieces just kept kind of popping up. Different concepts kept kind of popping up, and it just kind of told a story. So I incorporated all of that into this piece right now. But the reason I decided to name it I Manifest Everything That You See is because I actually wrote it out on this piece, and it's written on crumpled paper. And the concept and the representation behind the crumpled paper is that this was an old idea. It's an old idea that I had, which it literally was, and I went back into the garbage for it, and I brought it to life because I manifested it from a long time ago, and I brought it to fruition, So that's why I decided to use the young man to kind of represent that and let everyone know kind of when you have that vision in mind, hold on to it. Hold on to it, because those words, I manifest everything that you see, is literally you bringing your dreams to life. But you have to be the one to do that. You know what I mean? So that's me speaking life into myself and keeping my inner child alive. Clocks. Clocks. What? I know you're supposed to say Clarks, but from where I'm from in Jamaica, we say clocks. You know what I mean? And I love clocks. I have a lot of clocks myself. I would love to collaborate with that brand, man. It's just that would definitely be a full circle moment to really bring the roots of my culture with my art into something that I consistently wear, I take pride in, and I could spread it with the world and really share it with them in another aspect other than a canvas or a print, you know? Something you could take pride in, have on your foot, walk on the gravel, you know? I would definitely have to say Basquiat being one of them for sure, because he was a huge inspiration around my work when I first dived into it. I gravitated towards his story, being a very unapologetic young black man in New York in the art world when you weren't seeing much African American males really dive into that world, but he stepped into that world and put them on notice, like, yo, I'm here. So I love that aspect. I love his personality with that. I love to collaborate with him because I incorporated him in one of my first pieces called Balance, which represented the merge of football and art in my world. And it was based on a picture of him with a football helmet on. And when I seen that, I seen myself, you know? So I would definitely like to pay homage to him that way, let him know, and do a collaboration. I've always heard conversations around it. I've heard artists speak about it, and when I hear them speak about it, I hear it as it comes off as if it's a threat, or like, you know, they speak to it in regards of being worried. For me, the way I view it, I feel like there's two sides to it, right? You can be so confident within your work that you're not fazed by AI, and you're just in your own lane, and you're gonna stay on that path, and that'll speak for itself, which I do feel is an important thing because art is something that is just very unique. Like, yes, you can make prints and so forth of art, but every piece is unique in its way. And when you're putting something from in your mind and you're conveying that through your hands with different mediums to bring forth the image, that is a whole authentic and spiritual experience. Whereas the comparison to AI, it's not really something I'm familiar with, but I'm not closing that door. I feel like there's great opportunities to collaborate and create something on a bigger scale. Or for instance, if I create a piece of work that I want to kind of bring a different feature to or make bigger to put on like a side of a building and so forth, I feel like it would be great to use AI in that sense. So I'm not gonna knock it, but I do feel like they both have their strength in their own areas and they're allowed to be their own things, you know? I feel like there's a distinction, personally. If I were to compare my work that I create to anything AI, I think there's a drastic distinction because one, through the consistency of the work that I'm creating, I know what's within my mind and I know what I want to convey within my work, and that comes out in an authentic and unique way. And there's something different. When you see work online, it doesn't really do it justice all the time. And I feel like that's where a lot of people get confused with the AI and the art world. But when you see a piece up and live and you're admiring the depths, the textures, the brush strokes, the layers, AI can't do that. If you bring an AI image to life, from what I know so far, it's printed on a flat surface. Whereas when you create a piece with your hands and different textures and utensils and materials, the way I build a piece, there's layers to it. It ain't nothing just flat. It's telling a story, there's depth to it, there's a drastic difference. Oh, that's something I take pride in. And that's like what I do now in terms of what I would do sometimes in terms of like going to schools and kind of sharing my story. That's what I know best, my story, my life, right? And I try and look at it in retrospect to kind of see the things I could do differently or the things I learned, and trying to pour it into the youth and kind of to help them make those decisions earlier so it can help them in their life. So I call it the pivot mindset. And that's pretty much me telling my story from being a football player and becoming an artist and kind of looking inward to kind of find what was inside of me and bringing it out into the world with confidence. Core values, something I like to say is brick by brick. It just comes to mind every single time. I feel like nothing just appears. Oftentimes I use the example of whatever building or structure you're in, it didn't just drop from the sky that way. It takes a process to build that, you know? And it starts with a vision, and then it starts with, layers, and just laying a brick after brick after brick, and then you do see the finished product. But without each brick being laid, you don't get to that. And each one of those always means something. Another great quote that Clance taught me was, the little things mean a lot. And it means the same thing. Those little bricks add up to accumulate a great thing, which is a great structure, whatever goal you have in mind, right? So you just have to do those necessary little pieces. Everything that becomes big starts from being small. You look at great plants, it starts from being a little seed. You look at famous actors or athletes and so forth, they were just a little child the other day that aspired to be something big, and they poured into it, they did the necessary work, and they got to be that big figure who was looked upon. So the little things mean a lot, and just continue to attack everything brick by brick. Surround yourself with people you can confide in. Surround yourself with solid individuals. Like, I know I'm not the only person who said this. You show me your friends, and they'll say a lot about you, you know? That's something my mom would always say. I know that's a huge saying in the Caribbean household, but the people you surround yourself with will definitely be a huge reflection of aspects of you. It may not be exactly you, but it's aspects of you. So in times of weakness, you want to be able to have solid individuals around you, because at weak times you find yourself doing silly things that are out of character. But with solid individuals around you, they'll hold you accountable and get you back on path. You know what I mean? Because keep you on your track. So that's something I take pride in. I have solid individuals around me that I can confide in, and they hold me to a high standard, which I also hold myself to. And at times of weakness, they get me back on track, you know what I mean? I wouldn't even look at it as balance. I would look at it as just a revolving circle. Like, it all feeds into each other. There's always a particular time for everything. You know what I mean? So there's family time, there's times when I'm pouring into the canvas, there's times when the family time develops something that ends up on the canvas. There's times when I'm doing something on the canvas and it reminds me that, let me get back to my kids, or let me incorporate my kids in this painting. Everything feeds one another. But a huge aspect of my work is community. Like I said before, community, culture, connectivity. Those things consistently show up in my work because it means a lot to me. And it's something I consistently surround myself and submerge myself in. I love to be an established artist. And who knows what that looks like? You know what I mean? I feel like it's easier to say, like, I want to become a professional football player, because you can see it, you know the platform you're going to be on, you know where it's televised, you know where it's being seen. Whereas as an artist, yes, you can have different platforms that you're seen on, but to each viewer it's different, you know? And it's ultimately up to you how you want that to be conveyed. I can be established, I could see myself as an established artist now in the terms of I'm creating, and I'm creating what I want. And that's a huge sense of establishment to me, but I do see it on a higher degree. And the reason I see it on a higher degree, because I wanted to reach the people who it's supposed to. In terms of, I want to max out what I'm supposed to do on this earth to its max capability. And I feel like right now my driver, or my vehicle, is the art, and I want to max that in every which way I can. So however I can inspire people with my art, if that can help numerous people across the world in whatever which way they need, or a way of communication, I want to max that. And that's how I see it on its highest level. Growing up, it's easy to say you want to be remembered as the athlete in the highlights, or with certain accolades in the Hall of Fame and so forth. But once you get to that platform and you see things in a different light, it's not, those are great, but I feel like it has a ceiling. It has a ceiling, right? Especially to a certain crowd. That's only applicable to those people who like sports. In my case, football. But in regards to football, the way I want to be remembered is the type of teammate I was, the memories that I shared with the guys in the locker room, off the field, as a person, knowing that regardless of the accident or whatever happened in that way, I was still able to find myself and formulate and maximize who I am as a human being. In terms of art now, I take so much pride in art because I found this answer early. And I found it in a dark time where I'm like, you know what, life is short. It could have been gone in that accident. And it really brought it to the forefront of my mind. And it didn't bring it up in a sense of fear. It brought it up like, you know what, I have opportunity to create something that a lot of people connect with, and they could have this in their household. And that's how I could leave my legacy and be remembered. And if they gravitate towards my work, which I pour in empowerment, vibrancy, community connectivity, there's nothing negative about that. It's all about positivity. It's all about uplifting your vibration and your energy. And it's when you look at it, I want it to be a form of empowerment. So if you have that in your household, and I'm the artist that created that, I feel like that's a blessing. That's a blessed way to leave my legacy in someone's household. I don't have to be here for that. Yo, what's good, everybody? This is Wayne Moore, and you're watching The Hustle Never Dies. Zit!